Welcome to this video where we will learn all about how the web works under the hood. We'll learn what really happens when you type in a website address and hit enter. Somehow we get our screen painted with these website components, but let's see what really happens under the hood. So we will cover how your browser finds these websites on the internet, what is the role of ISP in this interaction, what are domain name systems. We'll learn how your browser makes the connection and sends HTTP requests to these servers. And finally, we'll cover how your browser renders all these things on your screen. And this is the first fundamental that every web developer needs to learn, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how the web works. First, let's understand how your browser finds these websites on the internet. You open up your laptop or phone and search for, let's say, google.com. Your computer doesn't actually understand what google.com refers to. It speaks in numbers and it needs the IP address of google.com in order to render it on your screen. IP addresses are just strings of numbers that act as unique identifier for every device on the internet. So in this case, the IP that we will search for is the Google server's IP address. So the browser doesn't directly go to google.com. Instead, it makes a request to ISP and asks for the IP address of this website. ISP is your internet service provider. This is different in every country, and each country has multiple ISP providers. It's the company that provides you with the internet. But ISP also doesn't know where google.com is, so it reaches out to domain name systems to find out the IP address of this website. The DNS is like a massive phone book for the internet. It has all the website IP addresses stored in front of their domains. So whenever it gets a request for, let's say, google.com in this case, it searches this domain and finds out the IP address of that domain. So it finds the IP address and sends it back to ISP, and ISP sends it back to your browser. Now that we have the IP address, your browser prepares an HTTP request to this server, and this request gets sent across the internet, traveling a whole network of cables and routers to find its destination. This server that received the request is like a giant warehouse storing all the files that makes up the google.com, and it finds the HTML, CSS and JavaScript files that build the google.com homepage and sends them back to your browser. Now that your browser has these files, it starts to read them. It first reads the HTML file for the structure, then it applies the styles from CSS file, and then executes the JavaScript file, and finally the web page appears on your screen. After this point, there might be many other requests back and forth between your browser and Google servers for other files. However, you don't need to make another request to ISP for these, as they go directly to google.com servers. And additionally, your browser has likely cached this IP address, so it won't need to make an unnecessary request to your ISP next time. Let's do a quick experiment to see if this is correct. If you open up a new tab in your browser and click Fn plus F12, or you can do right click and inspect, you'll see that your browser opens up developer tools. Go to the network tab, and while you are there, let's search for google.com and hit enter. These things that you see on the right part of your screen are requests back and forth between your browser and google.com server. And if you open up the first request in this interaction, you can see the remote address of this server, and this is the remote address of google.com servers. So now if we copy this, so if what we saw here is correct, we can maybe skip this part and directly make a request to the google.com servers instead of connecting to ISP and asking for the IP address. Let's see if that's correct. Copy the remote address and paste it in your browser, but remove the last part, which is the port of that server, and hit enter. So what happened is our browser didn't reach out to ISP, it went directly to google.com server, and as you can see, the result is exactly the same. We get the google.com and all the files requested from that server. So let's summarize what we just saw. When you want to visit a website, here is what happens behind the scenes. First, we are doing domain name translation. Your browser reaches out to ISP to translate the domain name into an IP address using DNS. Then your browser sends an HTTP request to that server at that IP address, asking for the website files. The server then bundles up these necessary HTML, CSS and JavaScript files and sends them back to your browser. And the last part is rendering. Your browser forms the page according to the instructions in these files, and you see the website rendered on your screen. That's the first fundamental of web development. Hope it was helpful and see you next time.